Meeting to order at 10 o'clock a.m. and I ask as a courtesy to all to ensure that you've silenced your cell phones. Also would like to remind the directors to turn their microphone on each time they speak to help with the audio and video recordings. For the record, I'll note that the public meeting notice was properly posted as required by law, and the notice of this board meeting was provided to each of the directors. The board meeting was called to order at 10:30 a.m. At this time, I would like to ask Director Huber to deliver the invocation.
Please pray with me. Our Heavenly Father, we're extremely grateful and thankful for all the gifts that you give us, for all the blessings, for the living in this great state of Texas, and for your creation. Lord, we thank you for serving on this board. We thank you for all the great staff of this organization and our fellow board members. We thank you for the privilege of serving the people of Texas in this way. We just implore you this morning to give us wisdom as we make decisions that affect the Brazos River Basin, and we ask in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Directors Tom Abraham, Helen Jimenez, Tony Embro, and David Savage indicated that they would not be present for this meeting. We've reached the portion now of the meeting where we've set aside time from you, the general public, to hear from you. So those interested in providing comments by filling out one of the cards available at the reception desk will be called to approach the podium and make their comments at this time. I don't see anyone here, and we have no cards, so we're going to move on to the first agenda item. Item number 1, report and possible discussion on external audit plan fiscal year 2025. Baker Tilly, introduced by Michelle Gerrois, Chief Financial Officer, presented by Aaron Wortham with Baker Tilly. Good morning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Board. This is part of the required communications between our external financial officer and you, the Board. Aaron Worthman from Baker Tilly made this presentation to our Admin and Audit Committee earlier this morning. And I would like to invite Ford Taylor, who was presiding over that meeting, to make any comments that he'd like to as a result of that before we bring Aaron up. No comments from there. So I will go ahead and let Aaron take over and make his presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Again, my name's Aaron Worthman. I'm the lead audit principal for this year's audit, and I'm pleased to present the fiscal year 2025 audit plan.
Just one second. James, can you put the volume up? Okay.
All right, first thing I want to do is just discuss our engagement team, walk through that. Then I want to go through the scope of our audit. What is it that we do as part of our audit process? Talk a little bit about our audit timeline, go through some required communications with you charged with governance, highlight a couple areas of emphasis for this year's audit, and then lastly end with our audit plan. So this year's engagement team is the same team that you had in the prior year. You have myself as your lead audit principal, Sarah Slaughter as our director, and then Ryan Tyler as manager. So given we have a consistent audit team, I would hope that this year's audit would be an extremely efficient and effective audit. Just to confirm what we're doing, we will be providing an audit on your financial statements in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America. In addition to that, we also audit you in compliance with government auditing standards. Those are additional standards relative to our due care for the audit, the independence of our audit team, supervision of the audit team, quality control, and our continuing professional education. We do issue a report on internal controls over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters. The third item, if you had significant federal awards, we'd have to conduct a single audit. My understanding, though, is you do not meet the threshold, the minimum threshold for a single audit this year. But just know if in the future you do, we would conduct a single audit as well. Taking a look at timeline, we started the planning for our fieldwork in June. We then conducted our preliminary audit fieldwork in July. Obviously, we're presenting the audit plan to you in September. We're going to conduct our final audit fieldwork in November with draft reports issuing in December, and then I'll come back in January, similar to prior years, to make our presentation. A couple things I wanted to note, or that we discussed with the audit committee. When we think of planning, you'll continue to hear this concept of materiality. That's what we use to plan our audit engagement. We look at quantitative factors, and we also look at qualitative factors. In addition to that, I do want to note, and I'd mentioned earlier, we do spend a significant amount of time taking a look at internal controls. However, I do want to note we do not provide an opinion on internal controls. A couple other items to highlight. Our responsibility as your auditor is to form and express opinions on your financial statements, and then again, report on other information included within your financials. A couple items that are required communications that I want to disclose. Again, our firm and every individual on our audit engagement is independent in respect to your entity, in fact, and appearance. In addition to that, we do use specialists as part of our audit. Specifically, we use a specialist for valuation for the fair value of your investments, and then also a certified information systems auditor that goes about and conducts our information technology controls. When we take a look at your entity, the significant risks that we see, one is always going to be management override of controls. So we spend a significant amount of time taking a look at journal entries. We use data analytics to test for those risk-based. We'll look at the risky journal entries and we'll test those. In addition, we also list improper revenue recognition due to fraud. That's always going to be a risk at any organization. So we spend a significant amount of time taking a look at your accounts receivable, your revenues, and the cutoff of revenues. One thing I wanted to note that is required is this concept of two-way communication. So certainly I'll present this pre-audit report. I'll also present our audit findings at the end of this year's audit. But I do want to note that this concept of two-way communication is required in the audit process. So what I would ask is if at any time during the year or during our field work, if anyone has any concerns, questions, certainly risks that they want to bring to our attention to include in our audit plan, certainly don't hesitate to reach out to me directly so we can have those conversations. Taking a look at audit emphasis, if we were to break down our audit, I'd say roughly 30% of what we do is specific to internal controls, most of which, again, as I had mentioned, pertains to information technology. So we'll spend about 30% of our time with those internal controls. 40% of our time then is what we call our substantive testing. That would be taking a look at your cash and investments, your fixed assets, testing revenues and receivables I had mentioned, your payroll, but that's about 40%. And the remaining 30% has to do with the planning of your audit and then the financial reporting. If we were going to conduct a single audit, these are the types of things that we would look at. Talks about sample sizes, test of compliance, things like that. And I've included the audit plan so you can see what specific testing we do during our planning and interim fieldwork, our final fieldwork, and then our audit completion. Again, I'd mentioned at the beginning, we establish materiality levels. That sets all the testing that we're going to do as part of our audit. Again, we look at internal controls. We review board minutes to see what major events or significant transactions you may have had during the year. And then during final fieldwork, that's where most of our testing takes place. That's where we do our substantive tests, looking at your cash and investments, property and equipment, expenditures, accounts payable, and then compliance as well. And then at audit completion, that's where we spend a significant amount of time taking a look at your financial statements. We also review and reach out to the attorneys to get their thoughts on any sort of contingencies or litigation that we might need to include in our financial statements. We look at management's evaluation of subsequent events. Basically, as your auditor, we're required to note in your financial statements any significant events or material events that would have occurred after your fiscal year through the date of our audit report. Management representation letters. That's the letter we receive from your management team that attests to their thoughts on fraud, compliance, internal controls, but we'll get that representation as well. And then lastly, meet and present our audit findings to you in January. One item, we often get questions from governing bodies, does our firm, do we have any resources for governing bodies? And we do. If you do get the chance, you can certainly look out on our website. We do have audit committee resources. There's a lot of good information on there for regulatory updates, governance highlights, things to that extent. So certainly, if you have a moment, feel free to check that out as well. And then with that, I'll open up to any questions anybody has.
Any questions from the board? Seeing that there are no questions, we'll move on to the second agenda item.
Thank you.
Discussion and possible action on medical insurance contract by Crystal. Is it Wild, Crystal? Chief Human Resource Officer. Good morning.
Good morning, Board. Each year, we bring this agenda item for your consideration, and this is our medical insurance rate renewal. Some of you might remember, we've been on a fully insured plan with Blue Cross Blue Shield since January of 2016, and we've also been working with Hub International as our insurance broker for about that same amount of time. And a few of these slides you're going to see I actually got from Hub in their presentation that they gave to management team earlier this month. This first table that you'll see is our historical loss ratio. And on here, what it's showing you is the amount of claims that we had for our employees and the amount of premiums that we paid. And as you can see, for several years, we were negative there. So we did not pay in enough premiums to cover the claims that we had for those years. And so anticipating that we potentially would have another year of more than 100% loss ratio, Hub decided that we should go out for RFP once again. And we've been doing that for the past several years to get the most competitive rates. Hub actually anticipated that our increase might be around 16%, with that loss ratio being over 100%. But as you can see here, for 2025, we're actually anticipating that going down to 81%. So we've gotten a lot healthier for this year's claims. We have here, this is the actual results from the RFP. Blue Cross Blue Shield initially had quoted us around a 7% increase. Hub successfully negotiated that down, and our initial proposed increase was 2%. We are going to be bundling our dental insurance again, as we did last year, so our actual increase is only going to be 1% for the 2026 plan year. They also got us a $25,000 wellness credit for us to use for our employees and $5,000 for communications. This chart breaks down our employees and who's on what tier in each plan. Employees can choose whether they want to be on the PPO plan, the high deductible health plan, which is known as the HSA, or the HMO plan that we have now. Right now, we have about 66% of our employees on that PPO plan, 31% are on the HSA, and we only had 3% in that HMO plan, but that was a new plan introduced last year. Our columns 1, 2, and 3 reflect what our current plan is for 2025. 4, 5, and 6 show the proposal from Blue Cross Blue Shield after Hub negotiated those rates down to the 1%. And then columns 7, 8, and 9 show the proposal that we received from United Healthcare. And their potential increase for us was going to be about 5%. Let's see. All right. So overall, we have had an average over the last 10 years of about 3.7% increases per year, and the market is usually around 8%. So we've been doing well as far as that goes. This is an action item for the board to authorize the general manager to execute the contracts necessary to continue the fully insured medical plan with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Are there any questions?
Director Boren.
Slide where you show the one before that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, that one. You have 4 years where you had a loss ratio pretty high. And what did you do different to lower it to 81%? Was it your hiring practices or was it what else?
So our average age did go down, but only about a year or two. And we were just healthier over the last year than we had been. The claims weren't as high.
So you're saying they were unpredictable those 4 years? What they were?
Yes. Yeah.
How does
Those
this
claims were
relate-
just
how does
higher
this-
during that time period, and we got healthier this year.
So how does this look with workers' comp issues? How's your workers' comp fund? Has it been impacted great also? Instead of claims, people going to workers' comp, or do you have?
Workers' comp is really not related to these rates at all.
I know that, but-
Because it's a completely different fund, and it's another one of those that it's hard to predict what your claims are going to be for that year.
Okay.
Henderson.
I have one quick question for you. Will you go to the next slide?
Sure.
How does this relate to our general employee? It looks like health costs are going up, and so I think what you're telling us is that it's going to cost each employee more to have the health insurance, or help me understand what it would look like, to just our general employee.
There won't be any impact to our employees this year from this rate increase. We anticipate that the Brazos River Authority will absorb the 1% increase for our employees.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? All right, please read the resolution.
Whereas the Brazos River Authority has maintained a relationship with Hub International since 2015 to provide benefit consulting services. Whereas the Brazos River Authority has maintained a fully insured medical plan with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas since January 1st of 2016. Whereas Hub International issued a request for proposals for our medical plan, received 3 responses, and after analyzing the proposals, determined that it is in the best interest of the Brazos River Authority to continue the relationship with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Whereas Hub International negotiated with Blue Cross Blue Shield to reduce the initial proposed premium increase to 1%, which equates to approximately a $42,000 increase for the 2026 plan year. And whereas the total cost of both employer and employee medical premiums for the 2026 plan year will not exceed $4,500,000. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager/CEO to enter into all agreements necessary to continue the relationship with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Texas to provide the Brazos River Authority a fully insured medical plan at the rates quoted for the 2026 plan year.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? Motion made by Director Ruiz, second made by Director Henderson. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Boren,
Yes.
Director Geesey,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Weldon,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Moving to the third agenda item, discussion and possible action on Possum Kingdom Bay 9 transition beam and weir box by Mike McClendon, Chief Projects Officer. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. Thank you, Presiding Officer Flores. Good morning, Board. Before I get started, I wanted to acknowledge Spencer Livermore with Walter P. Moore. He's going to be our engineering consultant on this project. Thank you for being here, Spencer. So I wanted to give you a little bit of background and history on this project, kind of where it emanated from and why we're bringing it to the board. During a periodic inspection back in 1987, it was discovered that Morris Shepherd Dam had moved downstream about 4.5 inches. So as a result, a multitude of corrective actions were undertaken. You may recall, or if you were around here at the time, we lowered Possum Kingdom Reservoir by about 13 to 15 foot. We installed relief wells. We did some foundation grouting. We also looked at ballasting. There's some gravel ballast and some concrete blocks ballast that are on the inside of the dam. And then we also did a stilling basin extension. And all these efforts were done to mitigate and monitor the dam as we move forward. Another one of those measures included the installation of a weir box into Bay 9, and this is a picture of that weir box in Bay 9. It was placed into service to monitor flow through the dam. That flow is collected in a pipe. It's measured monthly in the weir. That's the weir you're looking at right there. And then it's discharged downstream. And that discharge is approximately about 1 to 2 CFS. Over the last 35 to 40 years of monthly testing, there's been no measured flow increase, no fluctuations in flow. We have not seen any increased sediment or sediment within the weir, which would indicate you might have an issue since that weir was installed. Measurement of flow or seepage through a dam is not an uncommon occurrence at any dam, nor is it a dam safety issue, provided those conditions remain unchanged. So we've been operating for 35 to 40 years. You may ask, well, what's the need for this project? And so there's a few reasons, and I'll walk through them with you. We conduct annual and 5-year inspections. Those are pretty comprehensive, especially the 5-year inspection. But several of those inspections, engineering inspections and reports, have recommended additional investigation of the transition beam and weir box. Our consultant will look further to assess the source of the flow. The source of the flow is through the transition beam. And they'll provide any recommendations as to whether continued monitoring is sufficient or is some mitigation need to be pursued. The work will also include an assessment and recommendations on the concrete weir box and the collector pipe. We know that the collector pipe and the weir box have degraded over time, and so we'll have to make some kind of modifications to those facilities or replace the weir box and the collector pipe. And then lastly, the assessment aligns with our mission and our strategic plan, which is to ensure the safe operations and maintenance of our infrastructure in a responsible manner. And it also complies with the dam safety program of TCQ. Those engineering and inspection reports are provided to us. They're also provided, that information is provided to TCQ, and then we're required to respond with how we're going to address those issues that are discovered. So another question you may ask is, where is the Bay 9 and the weir box located? So depicted on this slide is it's a generalized cross-section of the dam, of the overflow bulkhead section at Moore Shepherd Dam. So over here on the left is the upstream side, so that's the lake side over here, and then obviously this is the downstream side. And then earlier I mentioned some of those mitigation measures. You have the gravel ballast that was placed in here. That's about 30 to 35 foot of gravel that was included in the late 80s, early 90s. And then if you've been inside Moore Shepherd Dam, you see those big concrete ballast blocks, and those were installed to address the issues that were discovered on the slippage downstream. So the area that we're talking about is the transition beam, which is located right here. That acts as a cap for the cutoff wall. There's a cutoff wall that's down in the foundation, and then it also acts as a tie into the deck panels that are located on the upstream side. And so what's happening is we're having a flow through the transition beam. It moves through the gravel, and then it's collected in a collector pipe. The weir is just down on the downstream side, and then it goes through the weir after it's measured, and then it moves on downstream. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Since I'm not an engineer, the cutoff wall and transition beam, what is their function and the actual function of the weir box?
Yeah, the cutoff wall is put down there to stop flow. It's in the bedrock, so you won't have any flow moving through the dam. And then the transition beam, it acts as a cap on top of that the cutoff wall. And then it also, these deck panels, there's panels on the front side of the dam. It fits in that slot. It's like the bottom slot, and then it rises up. And then so that water, then it moves through, there's a collector pipe. The weir is just a measuring device to tell you how much water is moving through
Okay.
the dam.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So the project objectives, I've kind of already gone through them, but I'll reiterate them. The assessment's going to help us determine if continued monitoring is sufficient or if some kind of mitigation measures need to be pursued. The study will also identify the repair options for the collector pipe and the weir. As I said earlier, those are going to have to be either replaced or modified in some manner. And then lastly, any of our findings or recommendations or proposed action plans will be submitted to TCQ and they'll review that. So this slide reflects the fee and the associated scope of work for the project. Over on the left-hand side, you can see the task and the associated fee of $1.5 million. On the right are the 3 tasks that Walter P. Moore will be performing. This includes a document review, which is pretty substantial. It goes back, they'll be looking at documents from the beginning of the dam, 1938, all the way up to the present. So there's a big source of information that's been carried out that they'll have to be reviewing. It'll include manufacturer or contractor coordination and then multiple workshops during the phase 1. And then the consultant in phase 2 will perform visual and non-destructive evaluations along with material sampling and testing. And then much of this work, as you can see, is in confined space, which is going to require a permit. It's very challenging conditions. There'll be geotechnical work, structural work, hydraulic work being carried out. They'll also have to look at assessing the concrete in Bay 9. We've noticed that there's deterioration within there. There's gases in there. And so they'll be looking at trying to remove options to remove that. We'll look at ventilation options to try to remove that gas to where it won't affect the concrete. They'll be carrying out monthly air and water sampling. There'll be sonar mapping on the front side with an ROV to look at the front side of the dam. And of course, throughout the project, we'll have a risk assessment. It'll be looked at and discussed at every meeting that we have with Walter P. Moore. And then there'll be also multiple workshops during that period. And then it culminates into task 3, where depending on the findings, there'll be multiple conceptual repair options available to BRA. We'll look at construction feasibility concepts to determine if the work that's being planned can be carried out, and there'll also be contractor engagement to make sure that the work that's being planned can actually be carried out physically. I do have a resolution for your consideration. The fee, as you saw, was $1.5 million. I added 10% as a contingency should any unforeseen conditions arise. But I can take any questions that you might have right now.
Any questions for Mike? Yes, we'll start with Director Weldon.
I thank you for that update. I listened very closely and a lot of detail going into the review here. I didn't hear the use of considering modern technologies that are available that may not have been in 1987 to monitor changes. So when we look at systems such as INSAR or geospatial references to the structure itself and an understanding of how we can monitor movement or condition, is that something that the contractor is going to be required to provide input to say, here's some options for us to consider to monitor and understand the structure versus what we have prescribed in the contract language to present maybe some technologies or innovation that can help us understand better what's going on. So what's the discussion or thoughts there?
Right now, we use, and Troy may have to help me out here, extensometers or how can he? Yeah, so those are tried and true methods for measuring like potential movement in the dam, and we do that on a monthly basis, and we've not seen any indications that there's any movement downstream. It's not, I probably should have iterated this more, but it's not a dam safety issue. It's more just a check on that. I don't know whether or not some of these new technologies that you're talking about are actually being planned with regard for this, though.
So I guess, let me just simplify my question. Does the contract allow for the contractor to bring some ideas to us? Or have we prescribed all their tasks?
No, I would say, especially through the workshops, and we have a multitude of workshops in each phase of that. That's something that we've always discussed, and if they would bring that forward if possible. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Dr. Henderson?
Will you go back to the slide before this? Maybe it's just me, but I don't understand how task 1, 2, and 3 relate to what you've got over here on the right. I'm thinking task 1 is the top one,
Yes,
the bold one, and then so how does the timeline for each of those tasks get to 2 years? Are they concurrent, or is it one after the other after the other? I'm just curious how that.
It's a little mixture of both, but the timeline, the 2 years, what's taking a long time is the testing and the sampling that's being done. That will actually take a period of about a year to a year and a half in itself. And there's seasonal variations in these flows, and so we're trying to capture seasonal variations in these flows, and that's why it's extended somewhat. But you are correct, the task is associated with each of the bold blue points.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for those questions, Mike. Thank you for the description here. Any other questions? All right. Please read the resolution.
Yes, ma'am. Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to negotiate and execute a contract with Walter P. Moore for engineering services for Possum Kingdom Bay 9 Transition Beam and Weir Box Project for a total not to exceed amount of $1,682,710, which includes a 10% contingency for unanticipated conditions.
Okay, you've heard the reading of the resolution. Director Lattimore would like to make a motion, and is there a second?
Yes.
Director Huber is the second. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Boren,
Yes.
Director Geesey. Yes. Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Crone. Yes. Director LaChance. Yes. Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Weldon,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 4, discussion and possible action on Possum Kingdom COC recoding and repairs by Blake Kettler, Chief Planning Officer. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. With this agenda item, we are requesting authorization to move forward with the professional services agreement for the repair and recoding of the controlled outlet conduit, or COC, at Moore Shepherd Dam. This effort is consistent with the BRA strategic plan to operate and maintain BRA water supplies and associated infrastructure in a safe, responsible manner in compliance with water right permits, water supply contracts, and other applicable regulatory requirements. So Mike did a really good job on giving you an overview and a little bit of history of Moore Shepherd Dam. So to orient yourselves with the facility itself in this project, here's a picture of Moore Shepherd Dam from April of 2024. So just to talk a little bit about the picture at first, you can see we're actively in flood release here. We're making passing water downstream with gate 1 there. We have gate 3 in a floating status. That's why you can see the water coming over the dam. It's ready to be lowered in case we need it. Gate 4 is, we're currently performing some gate maintenance there, but those are the 9 bear trap gates across the top of the dam. That's the way that we release large amounts of water downstream. There's also one low flow facility here that's currently open. That's one of 3. And for those that have not been to PK, this is the reservoir office or the lake office there on top of the dam. That's where it's at, associated with the facility itself. Today, we'll be talking about this area circled here in red. It's the intake tower, the controlled outlet conduit, or COC, and the ring jet valves that come out on the downstream side of the decommissioned powerhouse right here. Just to give you kind of in vicinity to where Mike was talking about, Bay 9 is somewheres right in here behind the dam, or behind the downstream face of the dam. So this is a close-up of the COC and corresponding ring jet valves. The COC is used to make downstream water supply releases and to manage lake levels prior to and immediately following high flow events. The system has a maximum release rate of approximately 3,500 CFS using both ring jet valves. The system incorporates a 42-inch and 78-inch ring jet valve and a pipe approximately 200 feet long, varying in from 144 inches in diameter down to 42 inches in diameter. So here's a picture or a representation where the ring jet valves are. Basically, the inlets at the intake tower, that is the intake tower that used to power or provide water to the power plant itself. Now the COC there at 144 inches, next down comes through the dam and splits off in the floor of the powerhouse. It goes to 42 inches in diameter to the 42-inch ring jet valve, and same way for the 78-inch ring jet valve. These are actuated internally here at the powerhouse, so that's the spot where we open and close those valves. The COC was fabricated by Rodney Hunt Company and installed in 2012 to 2013 as part of the decommissioning of the hydropower plant and surrendering of the FERC license for the facility. The facility needed an intermittent release mechanism between the large bear trap gates of 9,000 CFS each and the low flow gates at about 150 CFS each, which were referenced on the previous slide. As the owner of high hazard dams in the state of Texas, and in order to maintain compliance with TCEQ, which is the regulator of dams in Texas, we thoroughly inspect our facilities on a regular basis to ensure compliance, operational resiliency, and safety. During a recent coatings inspection of the system by V&A Consulting Engineers, it was noted that there were some coating deficiencies that needed to be addressed throughout the COC to protect the system and limit further corrosion. This is not uncommon and considered part of routine inspection and maintenance for the facility. In addition, while accessing the facility, inspectors identified a weld crack in the 78-inch ring jet valve on the vertical stiffening vane above the central hub, and that's pointed there at the first arrow. The purpose of the stiffening elements is to keep the slide round so that the ring jet valve can properly operate back and forth when actuated for opening and closing the valve. The recommendation by V&A was to further evaluate the weld cracks and make determination if it could be repaired in the continued use of the 78-inch ring jet valve. With that, BRA contracted with Lockwood, Andrews, and Newnham, or LAN, to answer those questions. LAN conducted a site visit to observe the 78-inch ring jet valve during the inspection. An additional weld crack was discovered there at location 2 on the vertical stiffening vane. The determination was made that the cracks could be repaired in place as opposed to removing the ring jet valve and repaired off-site. That was a concern of like, are we going to have to pull this from the facility, send it off-site? No, it can be done on-site, and we also have to, of course, perform the other coating repairs needed to the COC itself. These findings do not pose a dam safety concern. The 78-inch ring jet valve has been removed from service until we make these weld repairs. So here are a few pictures of the coating deficiencies in the COC noted during the inspection. As you can see here, this is your typical coating loss issues. This project will go in and will make those repairs as well. So in order to complete these repairs, we entered into scope and fee with Simpson, Gumpertz, and Hager, or SGH. The main objectives of this project will be completed through the scope of services here, which are to perform an evaluation of the 78-inch ring jet valve to determine the necessary repairs to the welds at connection points on the internal stiffening vanes, review existing specifications of the conduit and ring jet valve, prepare coating and spot patching specifications of all metal surfaces throughout the conduit with a desired minimum service life of 20 years, prepare design specifications for repairs to the ring jet valve and recoating of the COC for bid and construction. Basically, the overall objective is to put the entirety of the system back into service. In addition, the tasks previously shown, we also negotiate optional tasks to support completion of the project if needed and authorized by the BRA. This includes bidding, construction engineering, and administration services, as well as RPR. Here's a breakdown of the proposed fee for a total of $662,400. Again, tasks 3, 4, 5, and 6 only proceed once authorized by BRA. And I do have a resolution for consideration, but I'll take any questions.
Okay, Director Lattimore has a question, and then we'll jump over to Dr. Roos.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I recollect that we've had continuing problems with, maybe I'm wrong and you correct me if I am, but I recollect that we've had continuing problems with the coating in this area through the whole channel and with the ring jet valve. Am I right or wrong?
There have been some coding issues in the past. Those have been addressed. This now is just reaching somewhat towards the end of its service life. Just for reference, what we typically get out of a gate out there is about 10 years, just with the salinity in the water and everything else. So it's just kind of a very corrosive environment.
And I know just from having lived there for years that the water that comes through this valve is at very high velocity. It shoots way out. In fact,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
People compare it to the exhaust out of a jet engine, so it's under very high velocity. What sort of, assuming these repairs are successful, I can't believe that they won't be, but what sort of guarantee do we have that they will be successful, and then what sort of warranty do we have?
Typically, we'll do a 1 to 2 year warranty as part of the actual workmanship. Now, it depends on who they submit as far as their coating manufacturer and the type of coating that they recommend. We're shooting though through the design at minimum a 20-year service life on the coatings.
So, I guess my question relates to the validity of that warranty and guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all wrapped into this same contract, or are you going to come back with another contract?
We'll come back with another contract, I guess, depending on the actual cost to perform the work. If it meets those thresholds for us to come to the board for authorization, we'll come back for construction.
Okay, so what we're really approving right now is the engineering services.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then we'll have an opportunity to review another contract
Yes, sir.
for the actual work.
Mm-hmm.
So that answers my question. Thank you.
Thank you for asking that. Dr.
The
Reese?
COCs and the vanes, is that steel or iron?
It's actually stainless steel. So it's a little tricky. This was one of the considerations when we were going through weighing is this something that RSMU performs in-house or do we bid it out? One of those considerations was it's a very tight working conditions. It's specialized when working with stainless steel and the mechanical operation of this, and just with the workload that RSMU currently has, it makes more sense to go externally. So it's kind of it's going to be a unique fix, for lack of a better term.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Director Henderson?
I really don't know who to direct my question to. It's either you or David.
Okay.
I don't understand why, if we've done this before, we've got staff who understand this. Why can't we do this internally? I just feel like this is a lot of money for 10 years of useful life.
You want me to take that, Dave?
Please.
Yes, ma'am. So we're shooting for 20 years service life of the coatings. It has so the COC itself is a confined space. So we have those considerations. We'll have to worry about humidity, so there'll be dehumidification equipment involved. There, access to the facility. Basically, let me see. The access to the facility, you are going down here. You've got to crawl in through the ring jet valve, so it's going to be a difficult area to access. We've got a lot of work going on with gate maintenance and pier plate wall replacement right now. They're taking on the flow control gate project as well, replacing the low flow gate. So they've got a lot of work lined out right now. Just in those considerations and the unique nature of this coating here as opposed to coating out, in the open. it just weighing those considerations, we thought the best fit was to bid this project out.
I'd rather bid it out and get it done now than wait on it. Our guys are really, really busy, as Blake inferred to.
Director Weldon?
The $662,400 is just for the engineering tasks. What do we anticipate the project to cost? So my question is, what percentage of total cost to repair is this engineering task going to be?
That's a good question. So typically and it kind of varies a little bit. You can shoot for 10 to 15% of whatever your design is to get through to construction. We do have RPR and other things that are built into this. So that's not usually considered as part of the design work here. I don't have a number on hand, but I'll know more once we start developing that OPCC and what coating mechanism they request and what repairs that they say are necessary to those wells themselves. So I don't have a really good feeling, but just to give you a general idea, that's kind of the lens we look through. Whatever we're paying for design, 10 to 15% of that, or that price is 10 to 15% of construction.
So with that, we're looking at a project that's going to be about $2 million?
No, sir.
If you got the $240,000 roughly at the top, which is basically going to get the design complete.
So if you're looking at, let's see, task 1, 2, I would consider that more of your design, your bidding and your construction and those other items. So task 1 and 2 would be 10 to 15%. Yes, sir.
So we're looking at a project of around $2 million.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Director Lloyd has a question, comment.
Remind me, big picture, the role that these play. Is this the main source of releases from the dam? Besides, I know the gates are manually operated, but when do we use this as opposed to the?
So this is typically they're used leading up to a flood release event and coming off of a flood release event. So when we open the bear trap gates, they're fully open. You get the full 9,000 CFS. So you can't stage them for a certain release. So these are critical in making sure as that lake level slowly rising, so we're not out there having to drop a gate for 2 hours, pick it back up. We can start making that intermittent release using that, also coming off of that flood event as well. So it's really good for a slow increase to the reservoir level.
All right.
One other thing on the releases, the importance of those things too.
You beat me to it.
Once we discontinued hydropower, we had no way to release water from the reservoir once it gets 13 feet low. So those floodgates are at the top of the dam, and if we ever get in a bad drought, this is our only means of getting any substantial water out of the lake, either for water supply or if we had to draw it down for some sort of emergency or maintenance purpose.
That's a good point, Brad. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for asking those questions, and Blake for entertaining us with all of your answers. Our mission is to make sure that we are protecting our most valuable resource, which is water. And so this agenda item and the one previous does make us ask the hard questions about, maintaining the dams and making sure that we are protecting our resources. So thank y'all very much for all that you do. It's very complicated, and those of us who are not every day in the water world like you, answering those questions for us and helping us to understand the cost is very much appreciated. Thank you.
Ma'am.
So go ahead and read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager or CEO to negotiate and execute a contract with Simpson, Gumpertz, and Hager to perform engineering services for the Possum Kingdom COC Recoding and Repairs Project in an amount not to exceed $728,000, which includes a 10% contingency for unanticipated conditions.
Director Lattimore would like to make a motion. Is there a second? Director Wilson, please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Boren,
Yes.
Director Geesey, Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Weldon,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Before we move on to agenda item number 5, I'd like us to take about a 10-minute break. Thank you.
How about that?
We'll move on to agenda item number 5, discussion and possible action on environmental laboratory complex engineering services by Tiffany Malzahn, Chief Environmental Officer.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Tiffany.
Just a quick history. In 2022, the board approved a design project to look at designing a new lab and an aquatic scientist workshop and equipment storage building. That contract was approved in January 2022 with a not to exceed of $1,494,343. It contained all the components of a design to construction project. So it had design, bid phase services, construction contract administration, construction contract engineering, and resident project representative services. 2 years later, the board authorized the project to actually move into construction. In January 2024, the notice to proceed was issued for April 1st, 2024, with a construction term of 660 days, which would put the original date of final completion in December of 2025, so this year. We hit a snag very early on that has caused some delay to the project, in that our power line for this building was not in the easement and was not where it was anticipated to be, which then caused Masonic to adjust their construction plans a little bit. We had to stop and work with Encore, draft a new easement, wait for Encore to come construct the line. That took about a 4.5-month period to get that done. And so it was finally moved in late July 2024. Masonic came back and asked for a no-cost time extension related to that 4-month delay. And that was approved in March of 2025 by the general manager, and that pushed the new completion date to May 2026. Now, I will say this, Masonic has made great strides to make our completion day be earlier than that. They're still hoping for a December completion date. I think that is probably not feasible. However, we are making steady forward progress, so I think a January 2026 substantial completion and maybe a February 2026 final completion is within the realm of reasonable, so I don't think we will go all the way to May 2026. However, Gresham Smith had estimated their resident project representatives and contract administration budgets in their contract based on the original 660-day construction period. So I'm asking today that we come back and add $205,833 to their contract. That would calculate us all the way through the end of May 2026 if it goes the whole time. If we do finish in February, they won't spend all that money or utilize all that. So that would make the new not to exceed total on their engineering and architect contract $1,700,176. Thankfully, we did have contingency approved on this project, so that does not impact the overall total budget. That'll come out of the contingency. And then also, the time delays has caused a shift in expenditures, so I need to move some money that was not spent in fiscal year 2025 into the FY 2026 budget. And so that total, there is a remaining $3,063,300 that needs to be moved from 2025 that was not spent then, that we think we'll spend in 2026 to finish. Again, does not change the overall project budget that the board approved. Any questions?
Director Huber has a question.
So this was Encore's fault, not ours?
Yes.
Do we have to pay for it?
The contract for the construction, we do not have to pay for that delay. It was a no-fault delay. However, our architects and engineers, that contract doesn't have that provision. It is an additional 4 months of service we're asking for them. Their RPR has been very diligent in making sure we are getting a job that is built in accordance with the plans and specs. So we do think that this is a warranted request to make sure that they are funded whole through the end of the project, even though there was a delay that was caused by a third party that none of us had control over.
No attempt to recover any of the costs from Encore then, huh?
No. I don't
Impossible?
think there's any avenue to recover costs from Encore for a delay they caused. We have no contractual obligation with them.
Well, the issue is the line was placed in the wrong easement back in the day during prior construction. So no one anticipated that the line was going to be, correct, where it was located now. It should have been in the body of that easement. Whether we directed them or whether Encore did it, I don't know the background on how the line got in the wrong place, but the line was placed there years ago during the construction on this building. So the fact that our utilities weren't where we had represented to the contractor in this construction is what caused the delay. And we were able to get the contractor to agree to a no-cost change order. So that, we didn't have to pay for that. The delay time, though, it did take a while to get Encore out here, to get the line moved, and that certainly, caused a delay. But we don't have a contractual issue with Encore to enforce a time frame for them to get out and get a line moved that's already in the ground.
Thank you.
Director Taylor has a question.
Not a question, just a comment. Encore's line was laid by a third party, not an Encore line. Historically, they're behind schedule. Getting power to a building is a huge deal because you can't do half a dozen things until you get power. So the original contractor on this building who was responsible for bringing the power in, he probably wasn't too concerned about it being exactly where it was supposed to be because he needed power. And if it was put somewhere close to what it was supposed to be, that was probably acceptable to him. And Encore's really funny about if it's not where it ought to be, we'll move it for another fee. But there's only one game in town. There is nobody else other than Encore. So I wouldn't beat the contractor up, the original contractor, who I honestly don't even know who it was. But dealing with Encore is not pleasant. And you're just glad to get power when you get it.
I will say we do have it well documented now, and the easement is much more prescriptive of where exactly it should be than it was originally.
Tiffany, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, the original timeline was supposed to be through December,
Correct.
and then they have said January, although somebody said May.
No,
and
the
now you're
construction
February.
contractor came back and requested an extension through May of 2026. They are trying and have been working diligently to not make the project take that long. I think at the pace they are on now, that's my estimate. I think we will be at substantial completion if they continue with the steady forward progress they're making. I think we'll be there in January of 2026. So it was the construction contractor came back, asked for the May extension, said we're going to try our darndest to make it not run all the way through May. But with the initial delay at the start of the project and that it required them to change their construction plan significantly, to wait for that because they couldn't start on both buildings at the same time, that they have asked for May of 2026, even though they're trying to make it shorter. So that then added 120 days that Gresham Smith did not originally calculate back in 2022 for construction. So that's basically the additional time we're asking for, is that additional 120 days. But if it does complete in January or February, we won't spend money in March, April, or May for the Gresham Smith contract.
So is it you that's tracking that? Who's our general contractor on it I mean, 3 months is significant when you're talking adding more money to a project. So, because that's normally where your contingency would come if you went a little bit over. So who's tracking that to push them along to say that significant amount of additional dollars for the BRA?
We are certainly pushing the contractor. However, you don't want to push too fast either. You want them to take the time to get the job done correctly. So this is really the engineer and architect who is helping us with contract administration and oversight. They had a not to exceed contract approved by the board. So it does not affect our overall project budget because we do have contingency built into that. However, their individual contract, since it was written as a not to exceed, didn't allow that contingency for us to make an appropriate adjustment to add 120 days of RPR and contract administration services to it. That's why we are needing to ask the board permission to amend the contract and then the board permission to move money from FY 2025 that didn't get spent in 2025 to FY 2026.
Director Lattimore.
If the contractor, I'm sorry, I'll turn my mic on. If the contractor is asking for the extension, would it not be reasonable to go to them and say, look, the architect fees are going to go up. Why don't you pay a share at least of these additional fees?
Our
I
contract.
mean, I'm just asking a question.
Our construction contract has a clause in it for third party beyond anyone's control, which Encore falls under the third party provision, that neither one of us had any control in the delay and the amount of time that Encore took to remedy the power line problem.
Yeah, if the damage or the delay was a result of the contractor, then we would go after the contractor and they would have to eat it. If it was a result of a design flaw, then it would become the engineer's responsibility. In this instance, it was the utility placement was in the wrong location. It wasn't as in the as-built. So I think that the perception in talking with both the engineering firm and the contractor was that was more of an owner's issue. So that's why the request was.
I understand the legalities of the whole thing. I'm just asking a country boy question. We're faced with paying the additional bill for the architects. Would it not be reasonable to go to the contractor and say, look, we're going to have to pay these additional fees. Why don't you boys chip in some extra funds? I'm just saying, would it not be reasonable? You're asking for an extension. Why don't you help us out here? I'm just asking the question.
And then
I
Along with that, so the architect had to go back and do some redesign. So what was the actual cost of that?
The architect didn't have to do a redesign on this. This is on the additional increases for resident project representative, which is the architect has a representative on site every day, watching the contractor, making sure they're staying in accordance with the plans and specs, and we're getting the design we paid for. So it's additional time for that person to be on site every day that they are doing construction and for their overall administration services. The Encore line in of itself did not cause a redesign. It was more it's going to be 4 more months of that resident project representative sitting on site than they anticipated for when they negotiated their contract with us in 2022.
Okay, thank you. Director Weldon?
So I just wonder, is there a way for us to take that 205,833 and turn it into an incentive payment to the contractor? Every day saved is $1 saved for us. Provide some incentive, monetary incentive to the contractor, and
We'd have to amend the
as they accelerate, we pay that to them. And obviously, if we are a day early, we save a day's worth. But 205,000 across that number of days, if that money is used to incentivize performance, then you don't pay it on the backside. You finish early, and you end up saving money at the end of the day.
That is not currently an option in the executed construction contract. It's
I
something.
realize that because it wasn't anticipated,
Yeah.
but what I'm asking is it too difficult to just, I mean, we're trying to save $205,833 here, and one way to do that is to finish early. It's great for the contractor to do that out of the goodness of their heart, but it's even better for us to incentivize it and end up paying them money to save us money in the long run. So just asking if that could be
Yes, well,
considered.
Director Weldon will look at that. And for, to further on to Director Lattimore's questions, for those items that are not associated with the Encore cost, we'll look at how that pans out for sure. And Director Flores, Chairman, I'd like to answer your question too. Between the BRA's engineers and our RPR, the BRA will be monitoring on a daily basis what the RPR and the contractor are doing to try to push this through as fast as we can to save every dollar that we can. We're just trying to get an amount of money to move forward so we don't have to keep coming back to the board if things happen faster or slower.
Okay, so I saw a couple of questions. Kat, did you have questions? Did you have a question? Comment?
Well, to Jim Lattimore, to your deal, I don't see this as on the contractor really at all. It's a completely unforeseen circumstance. I am skeptical of the RPR based on what I know about the project and their role. And I believe that there is an ability for them to speed things up, and I believe and I suspect that they've been slowing this down, and I want to say that publicly. So I would like for us to scrutinize what decisions they are making and what specs they are insisting on and not, and time-wise things that obviously we need them to protect our interests, make sure we get what we're paying for. I agree with that. But I would like to take a closer look at their role and have it be a little more practical than it's been in the past. Because we're increasing costs, this is just for them, right?
Correct.
Essentially?
And the overall contract administration, it's not 100% RPR, but it is mostly RPR.
Okay.
Well noted.
I see a little perverse incentive there with this whole thing. So that's my comment.
Director Lattimore and then Director Henderson.
I may have mischaracterized when I used the word contractor. I'm not familiar with all the terms, RPR, et cetera, et cetera. Doesn't make any difference to me. All I'm talking about is BRA. It looks to me like we're fixing to spend a bunch of extra money. Somebody needs to share the cost, is all I'm saying. Enough said.
Director Henderson?
So I really see this as two different, at the end of the day, it's two different asks here.
Correct.
One of them is the RPR and the other is moving the budget money. So I don't have a problem moving the money in the budget from year to year, but I agree with Lattimore and Director Lloyd where I'm struggling to see the extra 4 months, and it's some of what you said. It may be January, it may be February, it may be later. Is there a way to move that decision to the November board meeting when we have more clarity as to how far it's actually going to go out? Or is there something that makes us have to make this decision today in the timeline?
I asked the architect to make a prediction through the end of March. We do have another shorter term prediction, but we discussed internally, we decided not to have to come back to the board multiple times, that we would take the contractor technically on paper has through March 2020 or May 2026. So we asked the architect for what he predicted if it actually went through May 2026, their additional spend for January, those extra 4 months would be, and that was the number. And we made that decision internally not to come with a smaller number because we didn't want to have to come back again in January or March if we were wrong with that smaller number. So that was kind of a BRA decision amongst management team to go with the full potential worst case scenario, knowing that if we finish in January or February, they won't spend all of that money.
Okay. David, do you have a comment?
We can pull this item, go scrub it, and bring it back in November.
Okay. I would feel more comfortable with us coming back to the board.
Okay.
I know that y'all are always very diligent on trying not to, trying to stay ahead of the game, but we do still have another board meeting before the end of the year, which is when the actual deadline is. And then I think we could have a better understanding on where we are and then a prediction, probably a more accurate prediction as to when the project can finish. So thank you for doing that. We'll move on to agenda item number 6. Yes, sir.
I've been corrected. The top paragraph, we can come back to you in November to do that. The budget amendment, we need to move money today so that we can continue to spend the money that we already have budgeted.
Okay.
So,
Director LaChance has a comment.
So I'll tell you what, I would recommend that let's move on to another agenda item. Let my finance folks put together what these numbers need to be, because I want to make sure that in that dollar figure, we're not sneaking through the money that we were coming to ask for. I just want the pure budget amendment moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we let Tracy ask her
Oh, yeah,
question, too?
absolutely. I'm sorry.
Just quick, so to that point, David, Tiffany, I want to say thank you first for, these are questions I have in my brain on approving projects. I don't know where we sit on budget, and you're showing this, so thank you for adding that here. Where I don't have clarity, and maybe it's in these words, is, and this could be for when you come back to us, when you say that, this increase is the $200,000, I'm not sure I understand, was the 1.494, did that include the 10% contingency, that we've already eaten up the 10% contingency on that, or
No,
or a portion of that?
the initial architecture contract did not include a contingency in and of itself. When y'all improved the construction contract, at that time you approved a 10% contingency for the project. The extra 200 for the architect contract does not affect the overall budget because it is coming out of that 10% contingency.
That's what I know it says those words, but I just needed to understand it because I didn't understand how you were saying it doesn't affect the total budget, yet we didn't budget for the 10% there. So I think I'm straight. Thank you.
And if I could just add, the second paragraph, the money that we're moving to fiscal year '26 is just the balance of the budget of that project. So whatever we didn't spend in fiscal year '25, we're just moving that amount forward to 2026. We're keeping the total project budget the same.
Which is 4.427,300.
Yes.
That was exactly why I was
Okay.
asking that question. Because that should not change then if we're not increasing the budget. Thanks.
So then the motion in front of you, Laura Lee, make sure I'm doing this right, is be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby approves and authorizes an amendment to increase the fiscal year '26 environmental service building capital improvement project budget from 1.3 to 4.427,300. And that's an action that doesn't give us any more authority to spend any more money. It just moves from one unspent budget year to the next budget year. Okay.
Can I ask another question? Or do we, is that
Go ahead.
parliamentary? I'm not, okay.
You're good.
So the Encore line runs through the boat storage part,
Not anymore.
or, I mean, would have, right?
It did.
That was, it was unanticipated that it crossed that. How involved is the RPR on building a boathouse as opposed to the lab? The lab is very technical and high-spec, important stuff. To me, the boat storage is not as important. Have we thought about bifurcating the RPR responsibility between the lab and the boat storage facility?
We'll look into it.
Did I make any assumptions that are incorrect there also, Tiffany?
I think making sure we're getting the building we plan for that's in accordance with the plans and specs is really important regardless of whether it's a lab, a boathouse, or the generator pad. So I think making sure we're getting the project that we advertised and paid for is vitally important regardless of what it is.
Are they equally important, the lab and the boat storage?
Not necessarily, but the boat storage is not as simple as it sounds. It does have a sediment processing lab in it and a workshop too. It's not just a garage. So I think it's still needs some attention. I will say most of the RPR's time has been spent on the lab and making sure it's accurate.
We'll look into it.
Okay. So do we need to reread that resolution, Tiffany, or?
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby approves and authorizes an amendment to increase the fiscal year FY 2026 environmental services building capital improvement project budget from $1,364,000 to $4,427,300.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Is that Director Bourne would like to make a motion? Dr. Ruiz, a second. Please pull the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Boren,
Yes.
Director Geesey,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Weldon,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item number 6, discussion and possible action on Tarrant County Cooperative Purchasing Program interlocal agreement by Michelle Drouin, Chief Financial Officer. Michelle.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. This item is to let us enter into an interlocal agreement with Tarrant County Purchasing Cooperative. The cooperative represents over 400 vendors and is utilized by over 600 governmental entities in Texas. Each of those vendors have submitted competitive bids, and they've been awarded contracts, and they've been vetted by the Tarrant County Purchasing Co-op. It would give us access to pre-negotiated pricing for goods and services that BRA currently utilizes. There's no cost to BRA to join this purchasing cooperative. And, sorry. And so if there are no questions, have a resolution to read.
Any questions for Michelle? Seeing no questions, please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to execute an interlocal agreement with the Tarrant County Cooperative Purchasing Program.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Director Wilson and Director Geesey. Motion made by Director Wilson, second by Director Geesey. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Boren,
Yes.
Director Geesey,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Parks. Yes. Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Weldon,
Yes.
Director Wilson,
Yes.
Agenda item number 7, discussion and possible action on agreement with Hillco Partners by Matt Phillips, Deputy General Manager. Matt, we haven't heard from you in a while.
You're welcome. This is the agenda item I bring you all every 2 years to renew our agreement with Hillco Partners for state lobby services. We have had a relationship with Hillco since the late 1980s. They still do an outstanding job representing us. So if approved, this will allow us to extend that agreement until September of 2027, which will carry us through the next session. So, and there's no change in our very favorable rate and no change in the overall agreement. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If not, I will read the resolution.
Show them the resolution.
Any questions for Matt? All right, please read the resolution. Oh, somebody had.
I'm sorry. Is this a multiple rate structure with this, or is there a single rate, hourly rate that's negotiated?
We have a monthly rate. It is lower in months when we're not in session and higher in months when we are in session or in special session, where there are issues that relate to the Brazos River Authority.
Okay, and I guess my question is, it's a lump sum rate then, or is it based on type of position?
It's a lump sum rate.
Okay.
It's a rate that we pay monthly.
Please read the resolution.
Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, to enter into an agreement with Hillco Partners for legislative consulting services for a 2-year period in an amount not to exceed $370,000.
You've heard the reading of the resolution. Director Smith has made a motion, a second by Director Ford. Please poll the board. Ford Taylor.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Boren,
Yes.
Director Geesey,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Weldon,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
Agenda item number 8,
Am I out of order? Can I make a comment? I may be out of order, so I want to be sure I'm not.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. Going back to Hillco, I think that's a wise, I should have said this before the motion, but I think it's a very wise move. They're one of the best there is. What we're doing, I think it's a very strategic, wise move.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Sorry, I didn't see you. Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 8, report and possible discussion on legislative update by Matt Phillips, Deputy General Manager. Matt.
Well, good news. This is the last time I'll do this year, and I don't have any slides. So you're welcome. I'm just going to close the door on the special sessions that happened over the course of the summer. They ended up having 2 starting in July and extending all the way till early September. As I showed y'all last time we talked, the agenda for those specials was extensive. Had about 18 items. Actually ended up being expanded to about 24, included things like new congressional maps, abortion, bathrooms, property tax relief, flood, obviously related to the July 4th floods in the Hill Country, public funds for lobbying, et cetera, et cetera. It was a very long list. A lot of it did get done, not all of it. So most of the things that were in the call passed, but not all of them. As it relates to the flooding issues, we were obviously watching that one because of any potential impacts on BRA or operations. There were 4 main pieces of legislation that were considered on the flood issue. Only 3 of them passed. They ended up passing a supplemental funding measure to provide money for recovery in those areas, which obviously makes sense. They passed a bill related to youth camp safety and emergency preparedness at those facilities, and also dictating where they can be located in relation to floodplains. And they passed a bill related to flood warning systems to be installed in Flash Flood Alley. Those will be installed and maintained by the cities and the counties, whichever is appropriate. So those 3 things did pass. The one flood-related measure that they did not pass related to accreditation and continuing education for emergency management coordinators at the city and county level. That one got hung up at the end. I think it really got hung up because there was some disagreement on what Texas Division of Emergency Management's role would be in that. And some thinking they had too big of a role in the bill that they were looking at, and some thinking they didn't have a big enough role in the bill that they were looking at. So that one ended up not making it. The other issue that we paid a lot of attention to was public funds for lobbying, i.e. the last agenda item that you all just saw. That did not pass. Expect it to be filed in the next regular session. Once again, it passed the Senate, but got hung up in the House. So that one did not make it. There was some thought that after the second special session ended that they might come back again for a third. One of the big issues that they did not address that was on the call was THC. Potential ban or some sort of new regulatory framework on hemp-derived THC. So there was a thought that they would come back on that, and the one flood measure that they did not pass, and there was a thought they didn't do enough on property tax relief. Shortly after the second special session ended, the governor issued an executive order directing Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission and Department of State Health Services to develop a more beefed up framework around THC, hemp-based THC. That signaled to a lot of us that it's very unlikely that he will call them back again, at least not this year, especially with campaign season in full swing. So we do not anticipate that they will be back, barring some unforeseen event. So going forward, you all in November will see any potential policy changes that have come out of any of the legislation that passed during the regular and then the special. I don't anticipate many. We may have a couple, but there's not going to be that many. And then congratulations, you won't hear from me again probably until next November. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Nice. Any questions for Matt? All right, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Agenda item number 9, discussion and possible action on surplus personal property by Michelle Gerard, Chief Financial Officer. Michelle.
Good morning. Thank you again. Time once again to bring you all a list of items that we would like to surplus. The good news is this is the first time you've had to sit through this since March. This list includes all of the vehicles that we plan to replace in fiscal year 26, so that's why there's a few vehicles on there. If there are any questions, I can read the resolution.
Any questions for Michelle? All right, please read the resolution.
Okay. Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Brazos River Authority hereby authorizes the General Manager, CEO, dispose of the following surplus personal property under the terms and conditions that are in the best interest of the Brazos River Authority. Be it further resolved that the Board of Directors authorizes the General Manager, CEO, in certain instances to continue to use and or maintain previously authorized surplus property in a manner that is in the best interest of the Brazos River Authority until appropriate replacement property is received and placed in service. Items no longer needed or repairs not cost efficient. Quantity 1, a 2019 Ford F-150 Super Crew ID 0232. Quantity 1, 2019 Ford F-150 Super Crew ID 0233. Quantity 1, 2013 Ford Explorer ID 2459. Quantity 1, 2008 Ford F-250 Super Duty ID 9469. Quantity 1, 2017 Chevy Traverse ID number 5783. Quantity 1, 2003 Mack Truck Tractor ID 5728. Quantity 1, 2009 Ford F-250 ID 2377. Quantity 1, 2017 Chevy Silverado ID 8898. Quantity 1, 2009 Ford F-250 ID 3213. Quantity 1, Kubota Tractor ID 2748. Quantity 1, 2000 Big Tex Utility Trailer ID 0743. Quantity 1, Manitowoc Ice Maker ID 1314. Quantity 1, Atlantic Design Skid Mounted Dust Collector Unit ID 150-1. Quantity 1, Air Dry by Climate by Design International Desiccant Humidifier ID 001001. Quantity 1, Orion 3-star pH meter. Whoops. Quantity 1, YSI EXO handheld. Quantity 1, Northern Star gas pressure washer. Quantity 1, Simpson gas pressure washer. Quantity 1, Bush Hog mower ID 6244. Quantity 1, Chicago pneumatic compressor ID 5236. Quantity 1, Cobalt toolbox. Quantity 1, swing line laminator. Lot 1, Thermco spirit-filled oven thermometer quantity 2. Lot 2, Klein Tools IR1 temperature gun quantity 2. Lot 3, Safari Land patrol bike quantity 3. Lot 4, gravity convection microbiological incubators quantity 3. Lot 5, Polycom conference phones quantity 27. Lot 6, miscellaneous access security cameras, quantity 10. Lot 7, miscellaneous Dell and Samsung computer monitors, quantity approximately 100. Lot 8, miscellaneous printers, scanners, and copiers, quantity 32. Lot 9, miscellaneous office furniture, cubicles, and file cabinets.
Okay, Director Crowe.
ID number correspond to the VIN on those vehicles?
It's the last 4 digits of the VIN.
That's really a cool way to do that.
I figured you didn't
Save a
want
lot.
me
Thank you for
to
that.
read the whole VIN on all 9 vehicles. We'd be here till dinner time.
All right, any other questions? Okay, you've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt? Director Henderson and Director LaChance. Please poll the board.
Presiding Officer Flores,
Yes.
Director Huber,
Yes.
Director Lloyd,
Yes.
Director Boren,
Yes.
Director Geesey,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
Yes.
Director Crone,
Yes.
Director LaChance,
Yes.
Director Lattimore,
Yes.
Director Parks,
Yes.
Director Ruiz,
Yes.
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Weldon,
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I want to thank everybody for nice engagement for today's board meeting. Lots of good questions, lots of important things that we reviewed today. So, agenda item number 10, I will entertain a motion to adjourn, and that's Director Crone, a second made by Director who? Taylor. All in favor? All right, with no further business, the board meeting will end here at 11 minutes after 12. Thank you so much. Everybody have a safe trip home.